if you do the calculation, so you have this as a base, and then you have the emissions. If you calculate the results from 2006 to 2010, that's already like 3 gigatons. Like, it's the amount of reductions in the Brazilian Amazon yearly is the amount of emissions from England yearly. So it's huge, it's a lot. So thinking about, in terms of payments for performance, we decided that if you put it too high, and if you don't apply a rigorous methodology to yourself, donors are going to look at this huge pool of emissions reductions, and they're going to say, what am I going to do? I'm going to donate a little amount of this, and it doesn't make any difference. What is my impact in doing that? So there were these adjustments. And even with the adjustments, and even considering that Norway has done a considerable donation to the Amazon Fund, that's not even 10% of our emission reductions. So it would be unrealistic to expect that we would receive payments for all this amount. So we decided to be more rigorous with the establishment of the reference level, and to start in 1996, taking out the highs from 95. So that was the first reason for why the Amazon Fund started in 96, and why the same thing was adopted by the policy, because then you have a more realistic picture of what has happened throughout time. Since this date was already determined for these other 2 initiatives, we also wanted to maintain some consistency with what we were already doing. So we adopted as a base year in the 1996. The other issue to why 1996 was adopted is, as I mentioned before, the digital maps start in 2001. And the lack of digital maps, considering that we had to do this division and calculation and send it backwards, increases the amount of uncertainty of our calculation, at least at this point. So if you added more years that don't have a digital map, since the methodology that we chose was this one, we would be increasing the amount of uncertainty associated with our reference level. So we wanted to avoid that, because that would also, it's more like an issue of marketing yourself to future donors. So what I'm saying here by marketing myself is, look how good I've been. I'm discounting from my total, so you can consider that this I've done myself. And why don't you pay for the rest? But, you know, to be seen if that works or not. It was the approach adopted by the Amazon Fund, and the way we tested it, donors look at this and say, oh, great, you're discounting from your total, so you're taking into consideration that you should be doing something. And that looks better for the donor. But each country has to find their own way of doing that. It could be if we did the line straightforward, that donors look at this and they don't like it. Or even the projected, they would be like, I don't want to pay for a projection, I want to pay for real emissions. You don't know that. So we are just trying to make ourselves look good and maybe hope for payments. So I hope that I answered the criteria. For the 5 to 5 years, it was a matter of thinking in terms of our ability to send reports and to respond to these reports. So the idea is, if we present the results in a bucket of 5 years, so in this graph here, I take the 10 years average. The reason for choosing 10 years is most technical experts say that 10 years is a long time enough for the different trends to be offset in the average. So this is why we chose 10 years. And then we would get, so it goes to 2005, the first reference level. So this information from 2006 till 2001, you get each one of these, numbers, you subtract to this average, and then you have your result for that number. Follow me? Or? So then, you know, from 1996, you would do this amount, 1 billion minus 576 million, and then you have an average of 500 million, and then you add to this, and then you add to this, and then you add to this, and then you have for 5 years. But if you present it every year, your results will have to go through this technical analysis, and it takes time, it takes manpower, you have to be responding to their questions. So the idea to send it in a bucket of